Hey guys, welcome to my review of the Vert Code Elite Jumps program. Over the last 4 weeks I've completed phase 2. If I draw attention to the pyramid on the landing page, you'll see that phase 1 was this base phase and phase 2 was load redirect. I have already paid for phase 3 and that is the explode phase, and I've been digging through on the discussion boards to try and find out if phase 4 is in fact this spring phase and also what happens in phases 5 to 12. It feels like they've been deliberately vague about this when people ask them on the message boards, and it took me quite a while to find this out. But phase 4 will be the spring phase, so that's going to be plyometrics in days 1 and 5 and also days 3. I should reiterate that 1 and 5 are grouped because each week they are identical sessions, which may not be the case in every phase. Phase 5 is then lower body strength and explosiveness, and phase 6 is strength and plyometrics, with day 3 focusing more on the plyometrics side. As I said in my last video, it moves to 6 days a week for phases 7 to 12, meaning 2 pairs of lower body days on days 1 and 4 and 2 and 5. In phases 7 to 10, one workout is agility and plyometrics, while the other is lower body strength day. And for the final 2 phases, they're both labelled lower body, but one is high intensity and the other is low intensity. I hope that's cleared things up. It's been bothering me since I started the program, so it's nice to finally have something to share with you. Okay, back to phase 2. It starts with 2 deload days where he encourages you to get some foam rolling in, some extra mobility, and some light cardio that isn't basketball. I'm going to address the need for a deload day now, and you'll see why I haven't set a PB in this phase. Most training programs are built around progressive overload, meaning you're adding sets or reps or weight each week to elicit a training response from your body. So fatigue is accumulating week on week, and every week you're feeling more and more in need of a break. Athletes who have a single competition to peak for could have 5 to 7 days of reduced workload in order to maximize performance. That's not what we're looking for here. We don't want to peak after every phase. That's not the goal. So Paul is introducing 1 to 2 days of light activity to restore some of the freshness in our body. Since this is a strength phase, the cumulative fatigue is slightly more apparent, meaning that my jumps were down a few inches, which is fully expected. So the first real session in week 1 is day 3. This was the technical jumping day in phase 1, and as you saw, it starts moving towards plyometric work. You start out with 6 sprints, increasing the intensity each time until you're going flat out, then some light bounding, power skipping, before you're given a 10-minute block to practice your jumping or dunking as you see fit. Days 2 and 4 continue to be balance, foot conditioning and core work. The core work was good, but I found the foot conditioning exercises less effective in this phase. He does have a resources section with lots of different foot conditioning drills, and I ended up picking a different one and subbing that in. This day does start with 8 or 9 stretches, but at the very beginning there were 4 flexibility tests for your toe, ankle, hamstring and hip flexor, and I passed all 4, so that means I can choose to skip the stretches on one of the 2 days. If the opposite were true and I failed with the flexibility tests, he does offer a yoga session which inflexible players can add to their program. Days 1 and 5 are the main leg days, and these were hard work. It starts with some change of direction and agility drills that are quite intense, followed by a superset with something called overcoming isometrics. I'd come across this in a weights-based program where they ask you to do the same thing, which is to push as hard as you can against the pins of a squat rack while in a quarter squat position. Because my squat rack isn't bolted to the floor, I just loaded up a really heavy weight and held it as an isometric. So I put about 140 kilos on the bar, rested it on the pins, then lifted it slightly and held it on one leg. When you're doing something like this and you're using 2 legs, then you need a lot more force to be going through your spine and your shoulders, and by switching to one leg you can ramp up the force without fatiguing those muscles and then really focus in on working those legs. The second exercise in this superset is an assisted jump, and this is an example of complex training popularized by people like Werner. The idea is that you do a heavy exercise, and that's going to recruit all your fast twitch muscle fibers, and then they're going to remain active as you move to an explosive exercise. This guy is demonstrating that for his shot put training at close to 300 pounds body weight. In phase 2, you're actually given a couple of minutes rest after the heavy exercise, but the principle remains the same. There's a pair of jumping exercises, then a few more strength building exercises, finishing with a calf raise superset where you really feel the burn. I thoroughly enjoyed this workout. It took me about an hour and a half week on week. And I could feel myself progressing in each exercise, both in terms of getting stronger but also faster. As I mentioned, this is not where you're going to see me make big gains in my jumps. This is where the hard work is put in and the results will start coming through around phase 4. Before I finish up, I just want to cover a quick point about how the payment process works. Unless you opt for the lifetime membership, it is a subscription-based program, meaning when you cancel payments, you lose access to everything. That means you'd need to copy everything over to a spreadsheet and save the links to all the unlisted YouTube videos where he teaches you each exercise. This has been a problem for a few people I've spoken to who've picked up injuries because they've had to take that time off and then maybe redo a couple of weeks of the phase that they were on. So they might be repeating phase 4 and paying for phase 7. Although he's clearly mapped it out to build through all the phases, I feel like most of what I'm going to learn is going to come from phases 1 to 4, so it's possible I'm going to stop there. I have paid for phase 3 and that starts tomorrow, so I'll report back in 4 weeks' time with another review. Thanks for watching.